The origin of this book began with an idea. It began with a spark of inspiration when I was on vacation in France a year and a half ago. And as it turns out, a lot of my ideas over the years have come while I've been on vacation. It's when we have the time to actually slow down and think, and we have these great creative ideas. I'm sure some of you can relate to that as well. And like many meaningful things that we've done as an organization, this book didn't happen overnight. It started 18 months ago, and there was a lot of effort that went into actually making this book a reality. And it also didn't happen alone. You know, while I did the writing, there was lots of people involved, and there was lots of people who freed up time that allowed me to be able to work on the book as well. Right away, 18 months ago, the title, The Ordinary Leader, took root. Right from the start, and I've never wavered from it since. The subheading has changed and went through multiple different things, but The Ordinary Leader took root right away. And lots of people are asking me why. What do I mean by that? What is the purpose of this? Why would you choose the ordinary? Are you selling yourself short, Randy? Really? You want people to think of you as ordinary? There's a couple things that go into that title. One, yeah, I actually think of myself as a rather ordinary person, right? Two, I wanted to subtly, and maybe not so subtly, say, hey, leaders out there, don't think too highly of yourself. You know, a good place to start is just by being a little bit more humble and recognizing you're not all that you haven't yet arrived. And I think most of us all know leaders in our life who spend absolutely no time on leadership development because they're all that, and yet nobody likes them, right? Now, I've taken some creative license with the definition of what the ordinary leader is, and I've described it as this. An ordinary leader is someone who leads a small organization or team that is doing great things. I want to unpack that a little bit. I want you to think about that. The vast majority of people who work for leaders in the world work for leaders of small organizations. And even those of you in the room from larger organizations and larger corporations, you lead small teams within those organizations. And when I've worked in organizations with larger organizations, it's those small teams that actually propel the success and growth of the organization. And yet, in my experience, a lot of the literature out there around leadership development tends to be written either implicitly or explicitly with the idea of large corporations in mind. And yet, look at us. I don't see any Jeff Bezos of Amazon here. I don't see any Howard Schultz of the Starbucks here. We're leaders. Most of you all in this room are leaders of small organizations and teams that are doing great things. Or hopefully we're doing great things. That's what we're aspiring to, is to do great things. And so I wanted to write a book that was accessible to people that I run into on a daily basis. When I drop my kids off at school and I see my principal, when I go talk to my accountant, when I go talk to my lawyer, when I go to my bike shop and I pick up a part. I wanted to write a book where people were like, hey, you know what? I might be able to relate to this. I might finally be able to connect with that. And as a result of that, the other thing that I'm most excited about in the book is that I have, for each of the chapters and each of the insights that we outline, I've interviewed someone else. And so as you read this book, you're going to meet a farmer. Okay, we have a farmer here today, actually. We're going to meet a farmer who's going to talk to you about innovation. You're going to learn how to be more innovative from a farmer. Okay, we're going to talk to an accountant I've interviewed an accountant who's going to talk to you about the value of delegation. I'm going to talk to a teacher who's going to talk to you, a principal of a private school who's going to talk to you about the importance of motivation and engagement. And so throughout these book, you're going to meet these people like this. And I wanted to tap into the wisdom of other people that are out there. And a really interesting thing happened as I interviewed these people. None of them were limited by self-importance. They all are people striving to be better leaders. They have not yet arrived. And most of the people, as I've been sharing and talking about this book, they've been curious about it. They've been interested. They've been excited. It's actually caused some attention. But yet there's been some who, again, give me that look like, what are you thinking? Who's going to read this? as a part of this book, lots of things went into developing it, and I needed to find a designer for this book. And I interviewed a couple of design firms, and one of the design firms, had a very similar story to us. Started as a one-person shop, now is doing quite well, is well known. And as I started to listen to their story, I was like, hey, we're very similar. So I said to the individual, as I was interviewing them for my book, I said to them, you're kind of like an ordinary leader just like me. And the person looks at me and goes, no, I think of myself as rather extraordinary. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we're not going to be working together. Because I want to work with people who resonate with how we think and what we do, right? So we ended up, anybody who needs a really great designer, 9th and May, Linda Friesen, that's who designed the book. For those of you writing books, I know some of you are, actually, so there you go. There's a little tidbit there. I've been being asked with increasing frequency in the last several years of our organization's growth, what are your secrets, Randy? What are you doing to be successful? What are some of the things that you've done to help you get to where you are today? And as I began to put energy into writing the book, I began to realize that I'm actually answering that question as I write this book. I'm actually answering the question of how we've come from here to there. Immersing yourself into thinking critically for a year and a half about what leadership means is one of the fast-paced plans that you can do to get to leadership development, right? So I've been really on the fast track of leadership development. And a couple things I've learned along the way is that, first of all, one, it's important to actually identify as a leader. Earlier on in my career, I didn't identify as a leader. I was a speaker, I was a trainer, I was a marketer, I was an entrepreneur. I might have been a manager once I had a few staff, but I didn't have time to think about leadership because I was too busy doing the work required to propel the organization. And an interesting thing happened several years ago when I actually began to focus. I began to read more. I began to think more. I began to reflect more. And an interesting thing happened is that I actually got better at it. When we actually spend time, first of all, we identify as being a leader, and then we spend time thinking about what it means to be a leader, we get better at it. And the other thing that happens is we become accountable. Once you name yourself, I'm a leader, you're accountable, not just to those that you're leading, but also to yourself, right? So throughout this process, I've learned to much more clearly understand what it means to be a leader for me personally. And it's been interesting because as I've gone about thinking and writing about this book, I meet different people and I ask them questions. What is your philosophy of leadership? What are your key principles of leadership? And you know what an interesting thing happens? There's a deer in the headlight. Think about that. A lot of people don't know how to answer that question. A lot of people are clued. Oh my goodness, that's so, I don't know, I haven't thought about it. And so I think that's the other important aspect of leadership development is to actually be able to articulate what makes you tick. Why are you? What's important to you? What drives you, right? And so my hope with this book is that at the end result, one, that it's accessible to you. Two, that for those people who haven't clearly identified what your philosophy of leadership is, what are the things that make you tick, that by the end of this book, you're going to have a pretty good clue. And the next time someone says, hey, what's your philosophy of leadership? We're not going to have the deer in the headlight look, hopefully, right? I want to review some of the principles that are in the book. I don't have time to review all 10, but I'm going to review 3 or 4 of them. We start with motivation and employee engagement. And we start with motivation and employee engagement because in our survey, in which we interviewed over 1,700 employees and leaders about the importance of these identified principles, motivation mattered most, interestingly, to both leaders. Yes, we leaders, don't we crave that? Please, staff, be engaged, be motivated, right? But guess what? I didn't know this was going to happen. Employees said that that's the most important thing as well. And yet our own research, and most of us are familiar with multiple national and international research that says, guess what? Our staff aren't engaged. Most of them are showing up, doing the bare minimum to get by, right? And not get fired, to collect a paycheck. That's all they're doing, right? I have what I call a Friday night test. Is your staff engaged? Most of us don't need an assessment tool to know whether our staff are engaged or not. If we're honest with ourselves and look in the mirror, we'll know whether our staff are engaged and want to be there. And the Friday night test goes something like this. It's Friday night and your staff go out for some drinks. Okay? And it's hard to really do this test unless you do the undercover boss thing, but just play with me a little bit here. They go out for a Friday night drink, and people start talking about horrible bosses. Oh, my boss, he's such a micromanager, doesn't give me any autonomy. My boss is mean to me, disrespectful. I don't even know why I do what I do. Why does our organization? Where is your staff in that conversation? Are they echoing what they're hearing, or are they saying, I feel bad for you guys. That's not my experience. I love where I work. I love what our organization does. I know exactly why our organization matters and makes a difference. And my employer gives me autonomy and freedom. They challenge me to grow and to excel in my work. Is that what your staff are saying? Most of us should know that. We don't need an assessment tool to do all that or not. Now, in our organization, we haven't always had, superstar engaged employees, but one of the reasons I have been able to dedicate, 18 months into writing this book is because we haven't engaged employees, right? And it's freed up time for me to do that. I see engagement in our organization to a variety of different ways. First of all, engagement occurs with simple, I'm thinking. Anytime I hear someone say, I was just thinking, I had an idea. Hey, we could do this different. Hey, we could do that better. That's a sign of engagement. When you're not getting that sort of feedback, that's a sign that there's not engagement. So, when people have these, I'm driving to work in the morning, I'm showering my head, brilliant ideas, that shows you that they're engaged. We also see engagement in non-work related ways. I'm a gardener, but I only garden vegetables because flowers are a waste of time. There's nothing good that comes from flowers, right? So I'm all about vegetables.
Pollinators.
Yes. And I don't see them as an aesthetically pleasing. I don't have time for them, right? But someone in our office, we have an office in Sherbrooke, and every spring she comes to me and says, is it okay if I take some money from petty cash and go to go get some flowers to plant? I'll do it on my own time. She cares about the aesthetics of our environment, right? And so employee engagement is, yes, it's about caring for your organization. That's important, but it's also about using discretionary time. How do we use discretionary time? Are we putting that energy for? And here's the thing. Yes, the onus is on employees to show up motivated and ready to work, right? Our research is saying they want to do that. So where's the gap? Where's the incongruency? And my hunch is that we're not providing as leaders the right environment. Right? We're not providing the right environment for them to always feel engaged. Very clearly, there's been enough research done on this to know that what do people want? People want some autonomy. They don't want to be micromanaged. People want to know why their organization matters and makes a difference. Do you even tell them that? Do they know why your organization matters and makes a difference? And they want to get better at something. They want to get better and they want to master. And they want to like where they work. They want to fundamentally be able to like where they work. And that's how we create, and if we focus on that, we have staff that are willing to be motivated and engaged. Okay, that's just a little snippet of other things that you'll read in the book around motivation and employee engagement. Vision. Vision is our view of the future. It's out there. We're not there yet. Okay? And we have to work to get there, right? We're not there yet. It requires work. I meet so many people who have these great visions. And they're even realistic if they would actually put work into them. But they actually don't put work into them, right? So vision primarily, first of all, is about actually working towards that future goal. I went out with a friend of mine before Christmas who had this great idea, great vision about something that he wanted to do. And he wanted to test me, run some things by me because he knew that I've been through this process before. And so I actually spent a fair chunk of time with him, and I encouraged them and I shared with them things. I talked to the person and said, you're going to have to work toward it. It's going to take a long time to get there. Okay, and a couple weeks later, my typical Saturday, I usually work, I don't work all weekend long, but I usually work Saturday mornings. That's my time where my alone time, I get a lot done on Saturday mornings. Okay, went to the gym. It's important to take care of myself as a leader physically. Okay, spend time with my family. That's important to do. Went to my son's basketball game. In the evening, went out with my wife and friends for supper. Late at night, I come home and I'm looking through my social media feed at 9 o'clock, and I saw this post from my friend. Guess what it said? It said, I had a great Saturday, slept until 10 o'clock, and then I decided to binge watch Game of Thrones all day long. I'm like, really? This is how you're going to make your vision a reality? Is by binge watching Game of Thrones all day long? So, fundamentally, vision is about working towards that future goal, but why are we working? What is that? What are we working on to get to that goal? So the second part of vision is vision needs to drive our work. Vision needs to drive our strategy. And Eric already outlined our vision at Achieve in CTR is to provide high quality, focus on quality. That's one of our pillars. Quality resources. Okay? We want to be widely known. We want to be accessible to multiple different types of people, and we want to be trusted by you. Okay? And so when we are working on projects, or when we're deciding what we're going to work on, we ask ourselves the question, does it fit into one of those 4 pillars? Okay. We've most recently, just this fall, started live streaming our workshop because a lot of our northern community clients have said we need this to be more accessible. And guess what? It's worked. Right? So when we made this energy, it's taken an enormous amount of energy to get this up and going, right? But it fit into our vision to be more widely known. We're spending a lot of time updating some of our training material because training material gets old and outdated, right? We're spending a lot of time. Why? Because we want to have more quality. We're giving out lots of more free resources, which some of you are going to get as you leave today, because we want to be more trusted, right? So 2 things. We work towards our vision, but vision, we can't just work for the sake of working. Why? Vision needs to drive that strategy. Thirdly, organizational health. Organizational health is the glue that ties this all together. One of the things that you'll see throughout the book is that a lot of these principles interact with each other. They're not standalone principles. They feed off of each other. It's very difficult to be productive if you're not engaged. It's very difficult to be productive if you're not innovative, right? So these things all interact together. But organizational health is the glue that holds it all together. And here's the thing. Guess what our survey showed? The number one thing leaders are missing is a focus on organizational health. That's what employees are looking at us as leaders saying, can you spend some more time on now let's define what I mean by organizational health. We have people say, I'm doing organizational health because, today, I may have an announcement to make. The first Monday of every month is going to be Bring Your Pet to Work Day. Or Friday is going to be potluck days. Or my favorite is, Tuesdays are yoga days. I don't know if that's a yoga pose, but Tuesdays are yoga days. And we pat ourselves in the back and we're like, oh, we're doing organizational health. That's not organization. There's nothing wrong with those initiatives, but that's not a replacement for genuine organizational health, which is the emotional well-being of the people who work there. Do people feel safe? Fundamentally, do they feel respected? Are they avoiding high levels of toxic conflict? I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to you that the number one consulting service we offer is dealing with high levels of toxic conflict, right? Organizational health is about that emotional well-being of people. When people like where they work, when people feel safe and valued and not disrespected, they will be more engaged. They will be more productive. All these other things will fall into place. Finally, innovation and creativity. No one wants to work in an organization that, we do things this way because we've always done them this way, right? People want to work in organizations where there's a growth, there's excitement, there's new things that are happening, right? And so I always try in our organization to tap into the creativity and innovation that I learned as a child. I grew up in not a very well-to-do home, and we didn't have many toys and all the fancy toys growing up, but the one thing my mom and dad got every year for Christmas was an endless supply of Legos. And these are the old school Legos. Remember the old school ones where you actually had to think about what you were designing. You know, my son just got Legos for Christmas, and it's like, oh, heaven forbid, if you lose one piece, the whole thing goes down the tube. And then you got to have, 50-page catalog to put it all together, right? In my childhood, if we really got bored, which was very rarely because we were always innovative and creative, we also lived just by a wood. So we would, my son, brothers and I, if we got really bored, we'd just run out under the bush and climb up, 10, 15 foot up into the tree, and the other brother would chop the tree down. We'd fall down. Woo! There's nothing to get you excited than falling 10, 15 feet from a tree. How's that for innovation and creativity? There's a couple of things I've learned about innovation and creativity in our organization is one, and I believe firmly in this, innovation is not about technology. Innovation is about solving problems. It's about providing solutions to issues people are having. It's about becoming more efficient. Too often, many of us in this room don't view of ourselves as innovative. I was working with a healthcare agency this fall around some strategic planning and strategic thinking, and they're a really unique healthcare facility. They do really cool stuff. And I said, you guys are really innovative. Well, what happened if you actually use that language? If you said, we're an innovative healthcare organization. We're an innovative education center. We're an innovative crown corporation, right? You actually use that word, guess what happens? Light bulbs went up, eyes went like, yeah, we are innovative. When we actually use that language, we become more innovative. So innovation, I believe firmly, is not just for tech firms. It's for all of us. It's applicable to all of us. Okay. Key thing that I've learned in our organization is that we bat about 500. That means we fail a lot. We try things, we do things, they don't work. And the most important thing as a leader that you do is to make sure you get up and try again right away. Okay? So we, as leaders, we need to embrace that failure is a possibility in what we're innovating about. The other interesting thing I've learned is I've actually learned that I need to put parameters sometimes on innovation. Now that's counterintuitive, right? What do you mean, Randy? Put parameters. That sounds like you're stifling innovation. I've had experiences in our organization where really quickly I've tasked a group to do this project or that project, and they've thought too small. They come back with not a big enough plan. I was like, no. We have this amount of money to throw at this project. We have this amount of resources, this amount of time, and you came back to me with this little thing here. So sometimes as leaders, particularly when we're working to grow an innovative organization, we actually need to put parameters so that people know they can actually think outside the box and go as far as they can. And finally, innovation is not a once-a-year brainstorming event. It's something that happens continually throughout the year. We always need to be looking about what's next. We had a meeting on Monday morning, and one of my questions to my staff is, are you excited about what's next? Let's go find what's next. What's next?